Halifax Board of Selectmen meeting Tuesday, August 10th. Scheduled to start at 6:30. It is 6:41. And we will start off with meetings being taped by Area 58 and broadcast out through Zoom. And we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So, we do have some changes to the agenda because we have a meeting tomorrow at 3. So we will be removing complaint, the request for public documents, and we'll be moving the open meeting law complaint from Bob again, both of them to tomorrow's meeting. Those changes, are there any other changes? Okay with that agenda? Those changes, is there a motion to approve?
A motion to approve the
Is
changes.
there a second? Second. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Okay. First up, we have Selectmen's meeting minutes, June 11th and June 22nd. I haven't had a chance to review the 23rd, so I'd like to hold up on those. But we have a motion to approve June 11th and June 22nd.
So moved.
Second. Second. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Good. Unanimous? Okay, next up, Mr. Sessa.
I move to affirm approval of the following warrants and commitments. Payroll warrant number 10 for $238,004.43.
So on that one, I did sign, so I have to recuse
Yes.
from 179, 186, and 188 internally.
189.
189, thank you.
So I'll stop with that and I'll do the rest.
Okay.
All
All in favor except for those three?
Aye.
Aye. And then if someone can make a motion to deal with those.
I make a motion to approve payroll warrants number 179, 186, and 189.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Recuse.
I move to affirm the following warrants. Vendor warrant number 11 for $65,948. Withholding warrant number 12 for $79,025.60. The school warrant number 13 for $230,909.21. An ambulance commitment for 7/19 to 7/25 for $25,027.93. And another ambulance commitment from 7/26 to 8/1 for $54,591.05.
Second. All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Okay, unanimous.
I move to approve the following warrant and commitment. Vendor warrant number 14 for $77,916.20. And the mobile home park fee number 8 for $5,160.
Is there a second? Second. All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Unanimous.
I move to approve payment of the following selectmen bills. Law for Michael C. Gilman for $2,035.
Is there a second? Second. All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye, unanimous.
Law for relapse for $72.10.
Is there a second? Second. All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Unanimous.
And then law for Brooks and Durensis for $14,517.02.
Is there a second? Second. I'm going to abstain, so all in favor?
Aye.
Abstain.
That's all I got.
Good. Next up, we have the general mail. So
You have 3 road opening requests, one for 3801 Drive for inactive gas service, one for 13 Hickory Road, inactive gas service, 11 Carver Street for new gas service. All 3 require detail and a trench permit.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded for all 3. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Good, unanimous.
Alternate building inspector Chris Carmichael has agreed to serve as the alternate building inspector for inspections and approvals for certificates of occupancy. Recommend appointment for a term to expire in June.
I'm going to recuse myself from this discussion.
So it's a separate position?
Yes, he has said he's willing to do the job.
So you just need us to motion that he can be the alternate.
Building inspector for doing the inspections and approvals for certificates of occupancy. That would be for a term expiring June 30th, 2022. Obviously, if Mr. Perry has not obtained his building commissioner, inspector of buildings certification by that point, then the board could continue this appointment. We're doing it on a year-by-year basis at this point.
We move it. All in favor?
Aye.
The Water Department surplus vehicle, the Water Superintendent's recommended that the Water Department's 2007 Ford be declared surplus. If the board approves this, it would be added to the list of vehicles and equipment to be sold by auction at a later date.
Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second? All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
It's unanimous.
The town clerk's asked that the board appoint the election workers listed on her memo of August 5th. I'm hoping it's in your mail if you need it.
What's the term that you want us to vote on?
I don't have anything.
It's just the 1 year.
So to August 4th, 2022 then.
July 27th, 2022, that was it.
July 22nd, 2022. So, is there a motion for Democratic workers Kathleen Miller, Lee Mulready, Judith Wall, Republican election workers Aaron E., Richard Roach, unenrolled election workers Robert Darby, Catherine Roach, Janice Haley, Diane Phillips?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Good.
We have 2 cemetery deeds to sign. And we'll pass those along.
Good.
Also, signature authority forms assigned for the police department and animal control that need to be signed off by the board. We have a talent bank form from Bob Ross from the Municipal School Building Committee, Emergency Management, CERT, and Zoning Bylaw Committee. You want me to set up an interview for him for August 24th.
Okay.
Yes.
Zoning Bylaw Review Committee and Zoning Bylaw Review Contract. What direction does the board wish to pursue for the committee and the contract?
I think we should reinstate the committee and ask 2 members for planning, ask planning to give us a recommendation for 2 members, that's for 2 members for the zoning board. Ask for a member from the board of selectmen and ask for a member from the finance committee.
And we need people at large.
Yes, we also need people at large.
I know the previous edition, you also have the building inspector on.
Okay.
That's fine.
So can we send them a message?
So 2 planning, 2 ZBA, building inspector, member of the board of selectmen,
Member of the finance committee.
and then 2
To a large.
Yeah.
And people who are interested should get their town bank forms in no later than, what would it be, 22nd, 20th, 19th, would it be? Yeah, the 19th.
Sounds right.
And then set up interviews for everybody. Obviously from boards and committees and such, we're not doing interviews, but for the large.
Yes, the large.
Green Earth Canvas, host community agreement, public forum. Boards needs to reschedule a date, time, and place for new public forum. I do want to note that the
I'm gonna recuse
dairy
myself on that one.
Salem versus Salem case strengthens the town's ability to decide whether to sign an HCA. So what's the board's pleasure in terms of a date for another public forum?
Have we had a public forum yet on
I'm sorry?
Route 58?
This is the one on Route 58, yes. So what's happened is that the board back on June 11th had voted not to sign the host community agreement. The Green Earth and its attorney had then asked that the board rescind its vote so they didn't have to file an action against the town because they were running out of time to do so. And the board has, last week, I believe, rescinded its vote on the HCA. So we're going back now. We had scheduled a public forum for August 3rd because of illness. We weren't able to do that. So the board needs to pick a date and time for another public forum. That's where Green Earth will be able to make an additional presentation, but also the forum would be open to anybody else who's interested in the host community agreement and the project.
That was the next couple of weeks.
You need time though, right?
Yeah,
To
well-
post it and,
You held the formal one, obviously, back last spring, in that you're required to hold at least one. If you wanted to go through the same process, notify the abutters and everything, I believe it was something on the order of 2 weeks. So you're talking now, at a minimum, late 25th, 26th, 27th, or something like that. And then they'd have to put an ad in the paper for following all the normal procedures for that. So the earliest they could put an ad in the paper, if they could get themselves together, would be the 13th, which moves to the 27th. I mean, you're probably talking that last week of August, September. I don't think you want to try and do it during town meeting week, which is the following week.
and
There
then
will be
holiday.
indication, but she'll miss out.
You wanna shoot for the 31st? The 30th or the 31st, Monday or Tuesday?
Yeah.
What day works better for you?
Monday's good.
Monday, so you wanna do the 30th?
Yeah, just, the finance committee's meeting at 6 p.m. And doesn't mean you can't, they'll be elsewhere. They may or may not be doing it by Zoom, I don't know. I expect you'll have a forum here in the Great Hall.
But we should make sure we're available to the finance committee because that's the Monday before
Right.
the special town meeting, so maybe we should go with the Tuesday. Because I think we're probably gonna need to be in.
You don't have one on the 31st because it's the 5th Tuesday, so you could hold it without any conflicts for your own schedule.
And then Charlie, will you make sure we're posted with the finance on the 30th,
Yes,
please?
I'll do that. Okay, so hearing, 7 o'clock?
Yes.
More marijuana stuff. Elevated Roots, you have a letter of introduction from Bobby Palmer of the company. They're still getting the final paperwork for a proposed site. They want to provide some information about the company. There's no action needed tonight. You have a copy of that letter. Lease for the water department. The water department would like to lease space in the singular building under the water tower. Singular actually has a lease of its own with the water department in the town for the building that's there. But for $1 a year, I'm waiting for review by town council, and I'll need to carry this over to the August 24th meeting. Town Facebook page and social media policy drafts been distributed to you for the review for the meeting on the 24th. I'll review the board's discussion from its meeting on July 27th as to what the board wants on the town's primary Facebook page. I don't recommend a heavy duplication of effort with what already is present on the town's website. Since everyone on Facebook has access to the website, but not everybody's on Facebook. And obviously, in terms of Facebook, there's always an immediacy. Since we're getting news out more quickly, that's one of the ways of doing so, where the information that goes on the website tends to change less often, but we do have news and announcements there. So I'll go back and reread what the board had indicated on the 27th and put both of these on the agenda for the August 24th meeting. LED streetlight agreement, I've carried that over to the 24th. because they don't have that ready yet. Council on Aging and number of members. The council's going to be discussing this at its meeting on August 17th. I think they have more people now interested in serving on the council than they have just the 5 seats. So since we're going to meet on the 17th next week, we'll carry this over to the 24th so we can have a discussion about that. In connection with that, there's a talent bank form from Ivy Matheny. She's interested in serving on the Council on Aging and working with the Veterans Agent. Do you want me to set up an interview for her on the 24th?
Yes.
Please.
Cybersecurity quarterly report. The town's participation is better than the state's average, but there are still employees who have not completed the assessment or the assignments. Some of the non-responses are due to errors in email addresses so that employees are not receiving notices. Sees is working on correcting those errors. Do you want him to send out a reminder, giving people a time limit as to complete the assessment and the assignments? Or do you wish to get a list of the non-participants, setting aside those folks who have email address errors, and have the board send them a reminder instead?
I think the board should send a reminder to ask at this point in time. It's been something that pops up for a while now.
Thank you. I'll talk to Caesar about that. Proposed zoning bylaw amendment limiting the number of marijuana stores in Halifax. There's a petition article that was submitted by August 10th with more than 100 signatures. This would limit the number of dispensaries to 1. Technically, it limits it to 0.08, but under what's proposed, it would round up to 1. The board should submit this to the planning board tonight. It will still need a public hearing, but it can't be part of the hearing on August 19th, as that needed to be advertised 2 weeks in advance. And then it needs to still get a recommendation from the planning board, so it's doubtful it's going to be voted on at the town meeting on September 8th. But nevertheless, it needs to be submitted to the planning board.
Okay.
Is there a motion to submit the proposed zoning bylaw to restrict the number of marijuana stores in Halifax to the planning board?
So moved.
Second. All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Unanimous?
You also received a proposed amendment on agritourism. It's not a petition article at this point, but it would allow additional types of events in the agricultural residential zone with more events per year, alcohol allowed, but attendance limited, as contrasted to what we already have, where we did the special permit for events such as Mudfest, where a property is being used only 2 times a year, there's no alcohol, but there's also no attendance limit, for instance. I'm going to be checking with Land Use Council as a case law on the subject. It's been clear that activities specifically connected to the farming, such as a farm stand, horse stables, a propane tank that's needed to run the farm, are allowed. But I haven't found anything that indicates how expansive non-farm activities are allowed on a working farm without additional permitting. There's a lot of discussion about it, but I think there may be even legislation up in Boston at this point, but nothing's been definitive so far.
So this did not have the 100 signatures?
No, it was just the whole landowner interested in, she met with the planning board last week about this. But the planning board's not putting the article on either, so it won't be on the September 8th warrant. It might be next May, depending on how things fall out.
Okay.
And we're going to 7 o'clock.
All right, 7 o'clock. We've got an appointment.
And the board, I gave the board just at the last minute 2 spreadsheets
Okay.
connected with this.
Hello.
So every year at this time, we do the solid waste fund cash flow report, which shows us how the enterprise fund for the solid waste recycling is doing. This year, we did better than last year. We actually brought in more money as far as recycling fees, so that our recycling program came out actually in the black. Our trash collection disposal came up just about 5,000 in the black. If you figured in the 21,000 that we figured is what the town dumpsters cost, they actually look better. And then on the bulky waste and hazardous waste, that's where we lost money on the recycling.
Cindy,
Yep.
on that, we voted at this past town meeting to have the
Yes,
How
we
much did
actually
pay for?
subsidized the recycling, the solid waste enterprise fund with general fund money for both the hazardous waste day, the town dumpsters, and then the needles collection, the needles program. So that will help next year. But all in all, the figures come out that we're just about 4,500 in the black, which isn't great for growing the retained earnings to take care of things like the truck and different things that come up, but at least we're in the black this year. My suggestion as far as the recycling fee would be to leave it where it is, as at the $50 per household. I did give you some additional facts. I did a little research this afternoon on the abatements, and we have seen a huge increase in the abatements over the last few years. Originally, we had very few people requesting abatements, but we're still collecting fees, and the revenue that I brought in, that I used, was what we brought in during that first year that the fees were due. So we're still collecting fees from 82.2% of the residents without question. Then we have the amount abated. We have about 7% abatement last year.
Do we have any questions about the data? Okay, so now questions about the abatement process itself.
Right.
Any recommendations?
As we've said in the past, Sue and I both felt that the abatement should remain the same. Sue said that she would handle the research on whether the people with the letters that come in, she would handle that to take that off the selectman's office so that it's not no longer a burden on the selectmen. And she has, she can contact the private haulers and be able to double check, make sure the people are on them, and make sure the letters saying that they are recycling, that they do provide the recycling service. Because that's the big issue. We want to make sure that people are recycling. Is there any other? Yeah. Basically, we feel that it helps to get people to pay the bill. And they can get it abated, they can get the information. It has to be a conscious effort, but rather than just forgetting. This year we had probably, and I think it was about 12 or more households who they got their recycling fee abated. It might have been even more, but they got their recycling fee abated. And then halfway through the year, they tried to use the recycling center and did not realize that by not paying that recycling fee, you don't have access to the recycling center. And then they had to recommit, and then then they had to pay. Sue was kind enough that some of the people only had to pay a half year because they were paying in the middle of the year. But I think that people don't understand that recycling fee is not just for curbside. It also supports the whole function of the recycling center, which is really a huge benefit for the townspeople as far as having a place that you can go with your old couch. And it might be another fee, $10 or $20 or whatever to get rid of that. But there's a lot of towns there's no place to go.
Other than here, we have to go to a private place to get our cars.
Right. So being able to use that recycling center, and $50 for the full year of curbside pickup and the use of the recycling center, it's a very nominal amount of money.
I think the board's biggest issue has been the abatement process
Right.
itself and the deadline imposed, and that, I guess from my perspective, the biggest issue is we have a list that we know we don't go pick up from. And it just seems like we should highlight to those people they need to file for the abatement. Because if they're on the list not to receive services because they didn't pay last year, they're gonna be on the list not to receive services for this year. We should somehow highlight in there.
Well, everyone is sent a recycling bill. They don't get on that list not to receive services unless they do not pay that recycling bill.
But
So
if
if you didn't pay last year, we do ask you to catch up on your recycling, but, all right, I do understand what you're saying, and possibly a targeted letter. We could do a reminder letter to these people. Please remember that you only have until this date to, actually, that could go out when the demands go out, right?
Yeah.
When the demands, because we send a demand out. If you don't pay a recycling bill, they get a demand notice with an extra $5 that's added to their bill. And I don't see any reason why a letter saying, please remember, you have this many days left to file an abatement for your recycling bill.
So,
And it can be spelled out exactly what they need to provide.
okay.
And like I said, it's just having them make that conscious effort. That way it's not, oh, well, you didn't tell me that if I didn't pay this, I couldn't do that. You know, I think it's,
It just seems like we should have some target to those people that we know we're not providing
Mhm.
service to, so we can say to them, we know we're not providing you service, but we're still sending you this bill.
Right.
Unless you make a conscious effort
Yeah.
to tell the town that
Mhm.
you're not, that you don't have another provider, because
Right.
you are required by law to recycle.
I think it's an excellent idea to send it out with the demands,
Okay.
all right?
So,
When you send your first letter out to inform people that it's time to pay the abatement, is it told written in there somewhere?
It is written on the
that they
bill.
know They can't go for an abatement?
Yeah, it's written on the bill that all of that
Yeah, there's a
information
telephone
is,
stating.
right, that it can be abated and this is how much time you
So,
have.
are we walking down the same trail by sending the second letter?
Basically, it's just a second reminder. Sometimes I need that. So,
are we going to allow the abatement? Because what we've done in the past was, when the demand went out, the abatement deadline was closed.
I would say allow it until,
So extend the abatement
extend it
deadline.
for a month.
Yeah, well, if the bill, if the second, you know, if the demand date is whatever it is, that
Yeah.
could be the abatement date, and that's your final, like final.
Well, if you do, the demands go out, say, October 1st, then you could put in the letter that they have till October 31st
Then you give
to
them
do
another
it.
30
We'll give
days.
them that, another 30 days to get the information.
Okay,
All right.
that seems like a fair process, because what we did last year was,
You cut
We
it off when the
sent it
demand's out.
October, yeah.
And then that would have been too late to send out the reminder, but this way we send out the reminder when the demand goes out, give them 30 days to respond, and then that would have to be it.
okay.
And if they don't respond within 30 days?
They can't abate,
Yeah,
then they owe the money.
they owe the money.
Can you just tell everybody what the process is for actually using the recycle center? What do they have to do to go in?
They come in, they show their driver's license, and then we look, I have the list of who can come in. And some people will pay on a Tuesday, and I don't get that information right away because they have to process the check, and then they call me, or I'm not in. Or they'll bring down a paid receipt, and then we'll put a sticker on the car, and the sticker's good until the end of the year.
Okay.
And we do pick up a lot of money on the abatements, because people will come in and, you know, it's like, you can't come in, you have to pay the $50. So a lot of them will gladly pay it, they just don't understand. And I wish there was a way to better educate people to explain what this $50 is for. It's not just the curbside pickup. So maybe we could put something, this bill's gonna be this thick by the time we're done.
Well, maybe in the original bill that goes out, more of a description
Yeah.
to say, if you request an abatement, you understand you're not getting curbside pickup, and you're not to use the recycled building, and you're not dropping off one-time items.
Yeah, and the bulky waste pickup, we do monthly, people love that. And I've had people on abate just so they could get, they could
Yeah.
do that, so.
What are you doing with hazardous waste?
The hazardous waste hopefully is gonna be in October, but that's coming out of general revenue, so that's all residents.
Right, because we took a vote earlier to say that we want that material
Right.
out of our residents' hands.
So because it's subsidized by the general fund, which is tax funds, it will be open to everyone. It doesn't matter whether you pay for recycling bill or not.
And that's gonna be picked up at your home. It's not gonna be a drive-through, you're gonna call and register and they're gonna come to your house and pick it all up. I'm just waiting on the contract.
So you're recommending a bill of $50 with a deadline of what date?
Well, it depends on when the bills are committed. So when, Charlie, do you know when they are usually committed?
Well, it's really going to be, I mean, we'll get the information to the assessors tomorrow. It takes a finite amount of time for them to print the bills, or send the database over to the treasurer collector's office, which prints the bills, puts stuff in the envelopes. So maybe a couple of weeks from now, so before the end of August.
Usually the treasurer collector sets the actual date and then the actual due date, because she does it so that it's convenient for people to come in and pay the bill. So I'm not sure exactly when, but probably within a couple of weeks the bills will go out. So they'll probably be due towards the end of September.
Okay, so we would be moving for a $50 recycle bill for FY '22 with a 60-day abatement window to close when the demand bill
30, yeah.
is due.
30 days after the demand goes out. So when the demand is due, actually, I don't know how
So
the demand works. I'll just say, at 30 days after the demand goes out, will be the final date for abatements.
Okay, is the board okay with that? Charlie, are you okay with that?
It's just, if everybody gets the bill at the same time, it works. If someone's out of town and we'll get a bill, then what do you do with that?
Well, at least with the process that Sandy just described, they're gonna get 2 notifications from the town.
Right.
That's fair.
So is there a motion to approve that? So second?
Second.
All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Thank you. And thank you for working with us on this. Seven 14. I think we can continue.
Data processing, with the increase in the hours for the IT specialist, the board needs to decide on establishing some sort of regular schedule. It's not all 40 hours. Everybody understands that there are going to be emergencies in the evenings or weekends, or there may be projects where it's much easier to do the project when the buildings are shut down and people aren't using the network, for instance. So it's not a situation that the IT specialist can be here 8 to 4 Monday through Friday. There have to be some hours called floating hours or whatever, but some of those hours need to be either here, but not during regular hours, or doing remote work, especially during the weekends or late in the evening. But we probably should at some point need to define how many hours are going to be here on a regular schedule, with some exceptions, obviously, and how many are going to be on remote. Also, a policy that we established back when we were doing remote work during the early stages of the pandemic. We had not just IT, but other people signing in and signing out if they were working remotely, to make sure that that's being done if there's remote work involved. Some procedure for confirming on-site hours. The IT specialist, pretty much works by himself. It's not a situation like with Cam or Verma that we know, okay, somebody's not in the office. For instance, Caesar may be going to the police station first. First thing, and not come in, we don't know that he's made it to the police station. And then there's a suggestion for any type of work journal, because I know the board was concerned about division of hours, in the sense of how much time is he spending on emergency work, how much time is he spending on the larger projects, how much time is he spending on fix-it projects, and to get a better sense of how he's occupying his time. Not that he isn't occupying his time, but simply what's the priority for the town, what do we need to be doing in terms of assigning those hours. And I didn't know if the board had any comments on any of this.
I think it's a good idea, and I think the tracking of basically the outages and what emergency issues are coming up, and letting the board know what projects are on schedule, and those items I think are important. I also think it's important so that the rest of the employees know what's going on. So if the IT specialist is working both weekend days and then doesn't show up because of his hours until Thursday because of whatever programmed hours he has to work on other things, I think it's important to have maybe a highlighted calendar or something to just highlight to everyone there's reasons why if there's service interruptions, those have to be dealt with immediately versus other issues that we have. So a work journal sounds like a good idea.
Are you requiring him to call in if he should go to the police station or the fire station before he comes in?
That would be one way of handling it, so that, in fact, he notifies the selectman's office, yeah, I started work today, it's 8:30, whatever, at the police station or fire station, or council on aging, for instance, I haven't reported right to, I haven't punched in literally at town hall yet, but I am at work, because I'm working in all the other facilities of the town that I needed to do first.
One IT expert, he'd email,
Email, text, something, some sort of record, email would probably be better.
What does he do right now?
We don't have a system in place. Yeah, there are times that Caesar will call in and say, oh, I'm at the police station, but it's not necessarily a course that happens every time. And we need to get some regularity in that.
I also don't think it would hurt to have him come into a meeting and talk with him and see what the new hours, what seems like is taking a lot of the schedule, hear from him what's going on. If he's saying, hey, I realize every Tuesday I'm finding myself here for this reason, so maybe ask him to come in the next meeting and brainstorm a little bit, work it out, get a better procedure.
I'm only going to be talking about the Facebook page and social media policy on the 24th, so I can have them come in and go with those along with this.
Yeah. Okay. Sounds like a good idea. Also an update on the internet.
In fact, just as we were starting up, he had given me a spreadsheet showing 3 options for that. I was going to talk about that under the ARPA, but we'll go right to that. So there are 3 proposals, one from Comcast, one from Open Cape or CapeNet, and the other is from AT&T, thanks. They're roughly about the same. And what I emphasized to him is that, Gordon's mentioned this several times, it's not enough to get the proposal, they're going to need to guarantee their work. In the sense of, for instance, what he said is that the 100 speed would be sufficient for both up and down here at Town Hall. And in fact, that's what they're recommending. But I don't want a situation that we sign up for 100 and find out we really needed 200 or 300. There needs to be some testing done and everything else to make sure this is going to work out, whatever vendor we use.
That is definitely my recommendation, to have whoever he's recommending to come in to town hall, do a test with what we currently have and guarantee us that they're going to do better. Because if they can't provide an actual solution, it doesn't make sense to sign a contract with them if they know the problems that we're facing right now.
So I saw tonight, just before the selectmen meeting, I said I need to check the procurement law. This is a weird situation. We think of the internet as a utility, but it's not a regulated utility. It's simply another service. And I need to know what we're able to do in terms of picking a vendor, in that we'll be signing a 2 or 3 year contract, so it's going to be over 10,000, but it's going to likely be under 50,000. And how much we can do other than price. In terms of, as an example, I said to him, look, Comcast put in a proposal, but they certainly don't seem to be interested, else they would have been coming to us and saying, we know what the problem is, here's a solution for you, and they would have done that, more than a year ago. Instead of just us bumping up our speeds for inbound, but not realizing that what was crucial was the outbound. So I have some concerns about the vendors and making sure that they're genuinely interested in doing this. Open Cape, for instance, they have a line already going down 106 as part of their connection to the Cape itself. So the amount of infrastructure they need to bring in is going to be fairly minimal. AT&T, on the other hand, is going to have to bring it in from someplace. So I'll work with him during the next couple of weeks, see if we can firm these proposals up.
Okay.
Site plan review, 934 Plymouth Street. Planning board's asked for comments by August 29th. This is the storage facility over on the south side near the town line. Several years ago, the planning board had approved a site plan and the board of selectmen had approved a permit for unregistered vehicles at the site. Specified that there could be no more than 30 unregistered vehicles on the site. All the vehicles need to be located in the area behind the first set of units. No repairs were allowed on site. The property needed to be kept in good condition, free of debris and trash. I do recommend the board notify the planning board of these stipulations, so they should be on record with the planning board, but I'm not sure if anybody's actually pulled the file on this there. And either have the board or myself check the site to confirm the stipulations are being met, and then notify the planning board of the result of the visit.
You need to vote on
It would be helpful to have a motion, yeah.
it? So moved.
A second.
Okay, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
We're skipping over the next couple of items, next 3 items. I believe we're waiting until tomorrow. We did get a resignation letter from Terry Renaud that resignation is effective as of August 12th. Appellate tax board liability, the correct figure for the possible liability for cases before the Mass Appellate Tax Board is $268,181, not $1.2 million as was quoted at a meeting at the board a couple of weeks ago. These are the ones where someone who's, they've been assessed a certain amount of money for property taxes and they're appealing that assessment, goes to the appellate tax board. Comcast license discernment hearing, that's scheduled for the board's meeting on Tuesday, October 26th. That's the next step in the renewal process. Traffic safety signage line.
On that one, can we get an update before that meeting from the cable advisory committee? On the licensing and the hearing, what their expectation is from that hearing?
So what they're looking for.
Yeah.
Okay. Traffic safety and signage land. Steve did contact me. This is one of the articles that's on the town meeting warrant for September 8th. He's looking, I would say, somewhere in the order between $5,000 and $10,000 because he quoted one sign, for instance, a lit flashing light type of sign at about $5,000. And then he decided to do repairs of other signs from time to time on the crosswalks. So the warrant's not done as in, it's a draft, the warrant closed today, but we'll have to put an amount. I'll talk to Steve again before we go to press, but it's going to be somewhere on that order.
Are they solar then?
Some of them are solar, yeah, the crosswalks are. Cafeteria employees and school employees. Several decades ago, for some unknown reason, the employees working at the cafeteria were classified as town employees for payroll purposes, even though the supervision, et cetera, is done through the school. The town accountant, the treasurer collector, and the elementary school committee all agreed that they should be officially classified as school employees and the payroll should be done by the school. This change needs to be authorized by the board of selectmen. Moving them to the school would allow them more uniformity in pay periods and benefits and ensure that the payroll work is done through the school.
So, I'm speaking as a member of the school committee on this one, not as a member of the selectmen. The school committee does do the negotiations for this and not the town, so I think that recommendation to the board of selectmen makes sense.
So moved.
Second.
Excuse me. Could I just make a suggestion that you notify the cafeteria employees of the vote, just so that they're aware? Because it does change doesn't change when they get their paycheck, but it changes what affected it, like what pay period the they're actually behind us, so we can, in their pay periods, so, or in front of us, please. So notifying them would be a good idea.
We'll do it.
You guys need to call it, vote, because I have to school committee member.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Proposed Brockton Resource Management Plan for Mount Ponce Pond. Our remote hearing was held last week, which I did not attend. But I intend to read the proposal and comment. It's a couple hundred pages long. And the deadline to send comments is August 23rd. If anybody from the board's interested, it's sitting in the mail folder here. So
Sure.
yeah.
On that, I noticed that Hanson had a representative listed in that document, but I didn't see a representative from Halifax. Is that, have we not?
I have to go look.
Okay.
I don't know what a representative to what would it be. I'd have to go look and see what they're representing.
Okay.
I mean, they may be a member of the Central Plymouth County Water District, for instance. Each town in the district has a member for, I believe, it's the Plymouth Advisory Board, but not the Executive Committee. So we have to go back and check and see what that person's doing. 715 Old Plymouth Street, junk vehicles, hazardous materials. We set aside 8:20 in case Mr. Parsons does show. I invited him to make an appointment. We left the time open. We'll get to that time and see if he comes in. ARPA funding for additional IT hours. The board needs to approve the $18,009.90 from the decreased revenues portion of its ARPA funds to pay the additional 15 hours per week for the IT specialist for fiscal '22. The board had previously approved doing this, but we didn't have an exact amount, so it needs to be on the record that the board's going to approve this. For the ARPA money, it's not a town meeting vote or any other vote, it's simply under the board's control for this.
A motion to approve?
Second.
All in favor, aye? Unanimous?
Back to town meeting, we're also going to have a vehicle maintenance line item for the inspection services vehicle, the one that's parked out here at Town Hall. It's not a police or fire or highway or water vehicle, so we've got to fund it some way if there are maintenance problems. Obviously, we just retired one of the vehicles, the old one, and replaced it with a newer vehicle, but at some point it's going to need tires or repairs or even the inspection sticker. So there's an article at town meeting to fund a line item for that purpose, unless the board wants to say, we'll fund it on a different line item, but you've got more money into that line item.
Finance committee got a recommendation on?
No, because I haven't seen, the warrant just went deadlines today. So you don't want to see this until 3 weeks from now.
Okay.
Use of Town Hall Green for Cub Scout Pack 239 recruitment as of September 18th. There are no conflicts.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Unanimous?
And Gordon, I guess you'll have to take yourself.
Accuse myself again on that, same one.
Site plan for 655, 657 Monpont Street from the planning board. Comments are requested by August 29th. Please note that this does not include any potential marijuana facility in the property. The site plan doesn't include anything for that. If a facility is proposed for the site, then someone will have to come in with a new site plan, not this one, and that would be presented to the planning board, and again, they'd send out for comments, etc. Right now, there's nothing before the planning board on the site plan concerning the marijuana facility, but the board has the right to comment until the 29th. Recycling abatement request for 7:30. So I believe you're meeting with the library trustees. You guys are coming upstairs.
I think so.
Gene, hi, you're right here, right now.
Is it 7:30?
It is, come on up.
You could come up to the table.
You guys
because we
come
need
right up to the
microphone.
table.
Even me? I don't better vote, right?
You still come up to the table.
Someone should grab the mic. So just to go over, when we have a vacancy on an elected board, the board of selectmen meets with the other board in joint session to vote to fill the vacancy. Each member of the board of selectmen, and this person, each member of the library trustees, has one vote each, and the board, unless you're having a joint meeting with the two groups, someone can move that someone be elected technically to the position. That person would then, if they get the sufficient majority of votes, would then fill the seat until next May. If the term expires, then it's a new term. If the term were to officially expire this May, the person still would have to run for the remaining part of the term. And I believe we have someone who's interested in serving, yes?
We had two people, we had two candidates. So,
We have Christine Bradford, Boyles, and Susan Hunt.
And so are either of them here?
I don't see them.
No. But we watched the interviews, got your suggestions,
Yes.
so I think we all watched them, did we? I did.
So, does the library trustees have a motion to recommend one candidate or the other? Individually or?
So we would like to motion that Susan Hill be appointed as the last trustee on the board of trustees.
I second.
Any other nominations? Okay, so we'll just,
I'll move that we take the recommendation of the board.
okay, so second? Okay, so this is a joint vote of everyone, so all in favor, aye? Unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you.
Come visit again.
That was quick.
Good luck. On to rest the mail, we have a recycling abatement request from the treasurer collector for bills 2009-1681, 2010-1689, and 2011-1703. The owner purchased the property in 2013 has paid bills since that time on time. I suspect it's one of these occasions where the certificate of municipal lien did not include previous bills. We remember that happening a number of years ago, a number of times.
And that happened during those years too, if we did a couple of past 2 years. What's the board's recommendation? A motion to abate those bills?
They've been on time since the time?
Yes.
They pay any of the back bills,
I don't believe they paid previous year bills for when they did not own the property. I suspect what happened was when the person purchased the property in 2013, the collector's office did not include this on the certificate of municipal lien. In essence, as part of the sale of the property, usually you get a list of taxes that are unpaid or bills that are unpaid, whether it's water or property or such. And so the new owner was never informed of these bills being outstanding when the sale happened. And the board has on previous occasions taken that into account and voted to abate those previous bills because the new owner was not informed.
He wasn't aware, he wasn't given an opportunity to pay them.
Well, the old owner was obviously given an opportunity to pay
The
them.
owner didn't know.
That's what I mean, I think.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, they weren't on the list of bills that he paid.
I move that we pay.
I second.
All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Next two, you've moved, the next two you've moved to tomorrow, the afternoon meeting. COVID, I know Jason, you're here, but we're still early, so I'll wait, is John, do you think coming? Or Bob?
He's coming for the officer's appointment. He had another meeting, so I'm not sure if it's going to be here for the
Oh,
COVID discussion.
that's another 10 minutes, so, well, let me get the other two items off. And, Dana Road, there'll be another article on the warrant for the special town meeting to meet the state requirements for the transfer of the town's property to the state. And DCAM continues to work on the necessary deeds. And then we also have a talent bank forum from Iraq. She was on the list of people to be interviewed a month and a half ago because There's a scheduling conflict, she wasn't able to come, but now would be able to come for the 24th. She's interested in a number of committees, I'll put her on the agenda for the 24th.
Yes, please.
I did provide the board with a copy of the draft town meeting warrant. There's about 19 articles at this point. The first bunch that are there are due to, we have outstanding union contracts and we're still negotiating in that. So we have two outstanding for 21, that would be the next unit and the patrol officers. Those are still in negotiation. There's a hope that maybe before we get to town meeting that we'll be able to come to a conclusion for those negotiations. Similarly, for the other 5, those are for fiscal 22, the year we're now in, fiscal 21 being the last year. And traditionally, we put articles in place for the union contracts in case we do have settlements by town meeting, even though today, for instance, we don't have anything settled. Article 8 is the, we had previously known about this one where we're asking to remove, this is the limitation one for the number of marijuana licenses. We talked about that earlier tonight. There's a request for a new truck for the water department. I have to put in the language for the Old Road landscape. I do not have an amount for a PA system for the Great Hall, but we need one.
Charlie,
Yeah.
on Article 9, is the reason why they're not trading that previous truck?
It's the language that I have is the language I have in the sense of, you certainly could recommend that. I can contact them and ask them. They may be putting it to surplus, I don't know. I can find out what they intend to do with the current truck that this would replace.
So the one that we just motioned into surplus is not going to be traded in?
I don't believe so, no. I think this one was, if I have it right, if I remember right, I think the 2007 has actually been sitting at the barn for a while.
Oh.
Well, find out what their which one this is going to replace and what their intention is.
Okay, because the issue with expanding the number of vehicles is going to be questioned.
The land transfer PA system, if I have an amount, I'll talk to Scott about that. We talked about the line item for the inspection services vehicle for maintenance. 13 is an annual article. We didn't have the amount available to us for the May town meeting. We get a certain amount of money, 10 cents per ride from Uber, Lyft fees, that's tacked on people's bills. And then the state sends us the check once a year, and then we're required by a town meeting vote to appropriate the money for various road network costs. It's not a lot of money, obviously, but until we actually have a voted town meeting, it can't be spent on anything, it needs to set. So that's why that article's there. We have the article from the police chief right now to have the town be taken out of civil service.
Do you know if he's been in contact with?
I know he's been in contact with both of the unions. We don't have anything formal from either of them saying, yes, we agree to the policies that the chief has provided.
Did he talk to the attorney like he was going to?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
15 is for the additional money for Silver Lake. It's $130,890. That's the difference between what was appropriated at town meeting and what would be needed.
Sandy, on that number, what does that put us to excess capacity at?
I don't have that figure, but I believe it, if my memory serves me, we come down to about 260 because they were trying to keep it at the 300.
Okay.
And it does bring it below that, but I don't remember how much.
Thank you.
Also, the water department needs to put more money in its retirement line item because they have paid a portion of the town's retirement assessment, but the line item hasn't kept up with the increases in the assessment. C. We have 17, which will remove the buffer restriction around, from their water establishments near the alcohol pouring license establishments. I guess that's the way the article read. I think anything that would be actually brought to town meeting in terms of a motion would have to provide the details of the change in the zoning bylaw. But that will be heard at a planning board public hearing on the 19th. We also, and it's something I'll talk to Jim Perry about, I know that before Terry Ron had resigned as the regulatory administrative assistant, she had already resigned as Conservation Commission secretary, and we had in essence spun that off. The decision for Jim is whether he needs more money and wants to reallocate the hours. If right now the administrative position is, I think, 36 hours because it was doing both building inspector and Concom work. If he wants to separate it, then we'll probably need additional hours because then we would have less coverage in the building office, unless we wouldn't have anybody there at certain hours on Monday through Thursday. So I'm going to talk to Jim about that. 19 is and the last one is the article that we're talking about for traffic safety and signage. I'll go back to Steve Hayward and ask for additional information as how much he needs funding for, but also to make sure that everybody's aware what this will cover and won't cover. For instance, will it be, is it the warning signs for the crosswalks and the traffic, the ones that we have for the school zone, or would it also include stop signs, for instance, as an example? Jason, we're close to 7:45. Are we going to talk about COVID?
Sure.
Obviously, things have not gotten better. They've gotten worse during the last few weeks. The number of cases here in Halifax is back to where we were late in spring, more like in April. So the board needs to probably start considering whether to change the policies. Obviously, everything got relaxed in June and July for good reasons. Their caseload was down, people were getting vaccinated, but our vaccination programs are basically ground to a halt. The number of cases is going up, not just here, obviously, but in Massachusetts and nationwide. So I wanted the board to reconsider whether it wanted to review, to look at policies again, and whether it wanted to start implementing or return to some of the policies that we had in previous months, last year and this year. First one would be on mask policies for town buildings. Until, I think it was April, May, something like that, we were requiring masks when people were indoors. Doesn't matter whether they were visitors or whether they were employees, but we were requiring masks for everybody. So we had a variant of that at one point, which was people could be, if they're, as long as they were in their individual offices, they didn't have to wear one, but if they were in the public areas, whether they were in the corridors, they were in meeting rooms, they were in the kitchen, but if they were eating, they didn't have to wear masks. I don't know if the board wants to go back to some form of that.
We were going to update on that at the school committee meeting previous to this. The Department of Education, Secondary Education, DESE, has a guidance that masking is strongly recommended for all students, especially those that are not vaccinated. The school committee, along with Clinton, Kingston, Silver Lake, had a policy in place to allow the superintendent to make a decision whether or not masking is required. The policy voted to be rescinded by Halifax Elementary for that because it was pointing to DESE, Department of Public Health, and the CDC, and they're not in agreement right now with what's required. And there's an assumption within the next week or two, DESE is going to make another change, and it won't be a strongly recommended recommendation. It will be a requirement, whether or not students have to be masked from K-6 or 7-12. So they can't mandate COVID vaccine for 7-12. They can only offer to 7-12. But right now, students under 12 years old are not eligible for the vaccine. So there's an assumption that the vaccine is going to open up to those students, and there's also an assumption that more people will continue to get the vaccine. Charlie ran some numbers earlier, and we're somewhere in the 33 to 50%.
Yeah, let me bring those back up. We're actually a little bit better than I was expecting, though. Let's see. So for Halifax, as of last week, sorry, it's a couple thousand lines of
Spreadsheet.
yeah. Okay, so Halifax right now, we are at, for 12 to 15-year-olds, we're at 38% fully vaccinated, 49% for 16 to 19, which overlaps the high school, obviously, 52% for 20 to 29, and then it starts going up 61% for 30 to 49, 74 to 50 to 64, 82 for 65 to 74, and then 93 for 75 plus. So very good percentages for our most vulnerable population, and we're certainly better than the country. I think we're around average for the area in the county. I think there are some towns that are doing better, some towns are doing worse. But you go back to the 12 through 15 group, 16 through 19, you're seeing 43. Not even half the people in those age groups are fully vaccinated. So we have a lot of vulnerable kids at both the middle school and the high school. Let alone, obviously you're having interactions with adults and everybody else there. And we're better for the adults, but even my age group, we're talking about a quarter of the population in Halifax isn't fully vaccinated yet.
I think right now I'm not comfortable making a change to the masking policy at the town buildings, but I think as we get more information and ask the Board of Health and the Fire Chief and other department heads what their recommendations are, I think we need to listen to them at the next meeting and talk about this. Chief of Service, Mr. Chairman.
No, I mean, as far, we're watching different towns who are starting to implement them, but I mean, I'd like it to be, based on some type of fact and why we're doing it. And as we're looking at the numbers, we're seeing maybe 1 or 2 cases come in every day over the past 2 weeks, which is significant. We had went a span of probably close to 8 weeks or so where we didn't have any cases at all.
We're down 1 or 2,
yeah,
2 week span or whatever.
And now we are starting to see them again. So, I think waiting another week or so and reevaluating it is fine. Like Charlie said, Silver Lake offer. I don't know if you mentioned that they offered the vaccines at the high school. It was at the high school, right?
Right, they'll be doing it again this weekend on the 14th and 15th.
Right, and I called the local pharmacies, and all of them have them readily available, all 3 vaccines if someone needs them. So we could always do it again at the fire station if you thought they would be helpful. However, the last couple times we've done it, like offer them at a town meeting and run the clinic, we really haven't seen a big, big demand. And like I said, they're readily available everywhere now. So testing.
Is there anything available at the pharmacies or?
Yeah, all the pharmacies. You
They can do testing?
same day appointments, pretty much, is what we found. Testing is a little bit different of an issue. I know we've had a few people call asking about testing. We don't have any tests left because the ones we had expired and we haven't bought any additional ones. Bob, he's not here tonight, but he was supposed to find out today. I don't know if you remember in the beginning, there was Bitnax, I believe it is, made the $5 rapid COVID test that we were never able to purchase because the federal government purchased all of them. But now they're being made available through the state to the cities and towns. So Bob's reached out to them and he's trying to get a supply of those tests, and we would be able to start offering that again if it was helpful.
Would you want to do something, specific hours, or just, basically people would walk in, even without an appointment? How would you want to do it?
Like I said, I think we'll kind of see how the situation develops again. We've had people who, we don't have that many where we could handle them on a case-by-case basis. If people want to be tested on a specific day, that's fine. We always have someone available to do that. I spoke to two other communities today. Interestingly, in their public safety departments, they've now implemented, they're testing their public safety personnel who are not vaccinated before every shift. And
so either they have to show proof of vaccination or get tested.
Right, and then I know that some of the hospitals now are doing they're mandating the vaccinations, and they're doing the same policy until they have a deadline for implementing that, the deadline for being vaccinated. But until then, if you're not vaccinated, they are testing their employees every shift. So I don't think we're in that I don't think our situation right now is that dire, and our numbers have jumped up so dramatically that we need to make a radical decision tonight, but something we definitely want to keep an eye on.
I don't know if we should let people just walk in either. I feel like we should protect you guys. So they have to call you and tell you they're coming. If they feel like they're sick or they might have COVID, I don't want them to just walk into the fire station with no mask and be like, hey, I have COVID.
Yeah.
I need
In the past, we've had that, when we were doing it last year, we had people call ahead, and then we'd have them just park out in the parking lot, and we would come, especially if they were symptomatic.
Right.
We would come out and test them in there. We just have them wait in their car, test them through the window, and then
We need you guys.
let them know.
So, where school's opening up again, and you guys had a testing program for the teachers of the school, how soon do you think you could ramp up those supplies?
So I think the supplies now, when we were doing the teachers, we were paying $30 per test, which is pricey. And unfortunately, like I said, we did have some that expired. If we can get the supply through the state, we could start doing it, as soon as school. If we wanted to do it once a week when school was open, we could do that and offer it to the teachers. If we have to purchase the supplies, I know you have some funds that are available, but they're readily available now that I could have a shipment here within 2 days if we want to go that route. Hopefully we don't. $30 gets chews up some money quick.
Wait for Bob to see if he can get the load there.
Yeah, I think I personally, if we can get them, I think that's the best option.
Maybe move this to the next meeting, make sure the Board of Health is here as well, see what type of guidance we start getting between now and then make some decisions for what's still open. I don't think we should do anything right now. I think we should make sure the Board of Health is here and see what all these CDC and testing and everything's gonna come up in the next couple of weeks.
If we wait, we stand a chance of more people getting infected. As far as the mask is concerned, it's an inconvenience, but it's a lifesaver. But you can't, I don't know if you can mandate an individual to get a shot.
Yeah, that's certainly a decision of the board. I mean, I don't even have a recommendation on that. And this, the mask policy, I'm personally a little torn on it because if this, I like to watch what the state is doing, and if the state is still allowing concerts and, mass gatherings, I like to see some rationale as to why we would implement that, but.
Do you want to just come up?
Actually, with the senior center today, we had, in the small quarters, we actually had masks. We suggested that they wear it indoors because of the small environment that we have there. and they were all doing such, you know, with the exception of one person with a medical issue, which was accepted by everyone, so it worked out okay. And we changed the signs to reflect the fact that it was a good idea that they do give masks under the conditions. We did have the venting, the window open, and we also had proper venting as well. So we did have a mask available, and everyone was receptive of that. It worked out pretty well. You know, it's a suggestion. And we did get some other information from other towns, Brockton, City of Brockton, and other towns, all doing something different. So it is hard to make a suggestion as to what's proper, what's the best way to go about this. But everybody was pretty receptive today in Halifax, so it worked out pretty well.
And as far as, go ahead. And as far as supplies, we still have a real healthy supply of PPE, so if anyone needs masks or gloves or sanitizer.
Are the official Halifax ones still?
I think we might have some official Halifax masks. I saved one.
The Muppet mask?
I saved one for them to put in the museum, but other than that, I think we have a couple left. Anything else on COVID, John?
Well, obviously, if we're not doing masks, we're not thinking about, at this point, doing testing policies or vaccination policies.
I think if you have access to them and somebody wants them and you're more than willing to work with the employees, department heads, or whoever needs to be tested, I think.
Right. Yeah. We were thinking about doing municipal testing sometime in the future. Right now, if someone needed to get tested, where would be the easiest place for them to go?
They would have to go to the farm, the doctor's office, to get
CVS
tested.
still does, I know you can like drive through one out, the one in Carver and do it. Yeah.
For testing?
Yep.
We have the vaccination programs in place at Silver Lake.
Yeah.
Maybe a case in the intermediate.
I
But I
think
mean,
it
it's
might be
happening in
the
Kingston this weekend. We publicized that on the town's website. We put it back up on Facebook again. One of the things the state's trying to do is saying to the cities and towns, look, wherever you can, put that information up. I mean, but we're limited in terms of resources and time available. It's not, I don't have the time, for instance, to put flyers out at local businesses, as an example, or something like that. But
We did send out the reverse 911 on that also.
And then we talked about the ARPA money, so. Do you have, I don't have anything else on the agenda for the public session. I don't know if the board wants to take a recess for 15 minutes, our next appointment's at 8:15.
We could take a recess, or could we cover the contracts in 15 minutes?
Yeah, if you want to do it that way.
Is the board okay with that?
Is our 8:15 here? Am I allowed?
8? Tyler? Yeah. We could take them early.
Sure. Yeah, it's not a public hearing or something.
Yeah. We could take it early, sir, if you want to come up to the mic. Board members.
Regarding.
Actually, this is
So you applied to be appointed to the Historical Commission?
Yes, I did.
Have you attended any of their meetings previously?
I have not.
Okay. Have you been in contact with the chair or?
Yes, I talked to the head historian on the phone.
what makes you interested in this?
Well, I like historical sites and I want to help preserve them because they're important to the community.
What experience have you had in this type of thing? Have you been in other committees or anything before?
I have none. I'm new to this kind of stuff.
How long have you been in town?
I've lived here since I was 8.
So 2 years.
Do we have a seat?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
Do you have the schedule you're gonna be able to attend the meetings and the flexibility to go and? be a part of the committee?
Yes, I can.
Commission?
So we always ask it, have you attended a town meeting?
I've went to one like a long time ago. I haven't been to one in a while.
We have one coming up.
I can't remember the last one I went to, but it was a while ago.
So our next town meeting is September 8th.
I can be there.
Troy, any other questions?
Just one last question. How many historical sites have you visited?
Not many. I've just started to recently get interested in this stuff. I've, gotten into politics and historical sites, and I've been trying to get more into history and stuff like that.
I applaud you for wanting to get involved. I think that's great.
Thank you.
I move to appoint Tyler Nordman to the Historical Commission.
For, is that a 1 year?
Well, it's going to be 3 years, until 2024.
3-year term.
Okay, June 30th.
2024.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Okay, thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay, so we've got probably 20 minutes or 30 minutes, and we want to move to
We
executive.
could go exec with the expectation coming back out, let's say 25. If Mr. Parsons is here, we could work with him and
Yeah.
then do the swearing in.
It's the board's pleasure. You want to recess or you want to go to executive session?
We get out here early, go to executive session.
I
Okay.
second.
We just have to do contracts?
Yes.
Okay, so is there a motion to go into?
Unless you don't have anything else.
I don't think
board
we're-
does.
As far as I know, the board doesn't have, we have a meeting tomorrow, so. Is there a motion to go into executive session for discussion on contract negotiations, sergeants, patrol officers, firefighters, highway, mixed unit, police chief, fire chief, and all unions of the Silver Lake Regional School District and Halifax Elementary, as discussing strategy with respect to collective bargaining and open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining position of the town.
So moved.
Second. Second. All in favor of the roll call vote. Ashley?
Yes.
Troy? Myself, yes.
Today will be his official swearing in front of the board, and to have his parents here with him for this ceremony.
I, Michael Barbarosi, do solemnly swear that I will bear true faith and allegiance to and will uphold and defend the Constitution of the United States of America and the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and that I will fairly and equitably execute and enforce the laws thereof within the extent of my authority and jurisdiction, so help me God. I, Michael Barbarosi, do solemnly swear that I will faithfully and impartially discharge and perform all of the duties incumbent on me as a police officer for the Halifax Police Department, and I will obey and be bound by such rules of government of the Halifax Police Department, so help me God. I, Michael Barbarosi, hereby accept the position of Halifax Police Officer for the Police Department of the Town of Halifax.